Oh, the stars are so complicated.
When you were dining critic, how did you assign stars?
Assigning stars is less a scientific process, I think, at the end of the day, than it is a gut reaction.
You spend a depressing amount of time thinking about these things.
If you went out to see a movie with a friend or your partner and went out to a meal afterwards at a restaurant, if you've eaten at a one-star restaurant, you're mostly talking about the movie that you just saw. At a two-star restaurant, it's 50-50. You're talking about the movie half the time, but increasingly the food is intruding on the conversation. Three-star restaurant, you don't even remember the movie. You're just talking about the food. And a four-star restaurant, you're almost in tears, and you're ready to go on your knees and thank God that you live in this place and this time and are able to eat at this restaurant.
The criteria for a 4-star review in those days was very clear. It had to be very expensive, there had to be wonderful service, and the criteria for the satisfactory, poor was also pretty clear. They had to be really terrible. The line in between is very fluid.
I think the 1-stars are difficult. They're probably the most difficult for me because it's not quite a full-throated endorsement. And yet, you still think the restaurant is worth writing about. So you need to explain why might you want to go, even though the review might be a little bit mixed.
You spend most of your time stuck between 1 and 2, 2 and 3, 1 and 0, and thinking, geez, you know, is it going to go 2 on my third visit, or is it going to fall down to 1? And if so, is that a bad thing? One is a good restaurant. It's a really good restaurant.
The kind of effect your review can have on a restaurant, especially if you're writing a negative review, weighs on you very heavily, and it should, because people's livelihoods are involved. But you always have to remind yourself, when you're feeling conflicted about that, that your primary obligation is to the consumer, the reader.
Anytime you don't give a star to a restaurant, people take it as a slam. So it doesn't really matter if you say it's poor or fair or satisfactory, because people just think it means lousy. And that's a problem.
2 stars can mean very different things. Very expensive restaurant that gets 2 stars is pretty pejorative. A very inexpensive restaurant that gets 2 stars is kind of a rave, and you have to really think about that when you're judging the restaurant.
I think the stars at the beginning and end of the day are a kind of applause. This is how much I like this restaurant. This is how heartily I would recommend it. This is how much I'm thinking about it in the aftermath of the meal. This is my degree of affection.